just to go through very quickly, obviously there are four different services under the Power Platform. Firstly, the Power Apps, which is more of an interface, for both the business user as well as the external user, and Power Automate, which is the RPA component of the Power Platform. The Power BI, BI standing for business intelligence, by the way, Power BI, which is more on the visualization and the analytics, data analytics service of the Power Platform. And lastly, which is the Power Virtual Agents, that is, in short, is actually chatbot. So this actually is a low-code platform that Microsoft is trying to market, that spans over, the different uh, services that they already have. For example, Office 365, Microsoft 365, Azure Dynamics 365, and the other connectors and standalone application. On top of Power Platform, we also know that there are some underlying support system that actually bring Power Platform to life. So the first one are the data connectors. Currently, they have more than 350 of them and growing every time. So I'm not even surprised now we are at 400 connectors. So what are data connectors? They are either pre-built or custom connectors to other services. For example, some of the good examples are, for example, Salesforce, uh, Twitter, etc. Or they are also many of the connectors are also Microsoft products. So this enable the clients to connect their data source to these different services that they already use for their existing business. So they come in either standard, premium, which they have to pay additional uh, subscription or service in order to use that particular data service, or they also can, if they have any um, data data service that they are already using, which Microsoft does not enable as a standard or premium yet, they can also build it as a custom connector and using a gateway to connect to those connectors. The second one being AI Builder. So as we know that Microsoft is trying to build the AI component more and more, and they have a pre-built AI Builder, which actually they have a few functions, for example, object recognition and processing. So for example, you can use your camera on your mobile app in order to allow the AI builder to recognize that object or that particular data set to come up with an analysis and to to recognize it and to give identification to it. So this is just one example. The third one, which being a very important part of Power Platform, is the Dataverse. So the Dataverse is previously called the Common Data Service. It is actually where all the data is centrally stored. So later I will explain based on the different uh, Power App, uh, some of it requires Dataverse. So if the client already is on Dynamics 365, they are already on Dataverse. So most of the services that Microsoft has actually are streamlining into Dataverse more and more. So this is something important to know about. So for most of the slides, I've included a resource here. As you can see this one, for more reading and more clarification. Okay, so why Power Platform makes sense? So I have included 4 points here. And of course, more and as you speak to more clients, you will be able to understand based on their unique situation or their the business solution they are trying to build, how Power Platform can come into play. So first of all, it makes sense because a lot of clients are already building their businesses and their business solutions and their process management softwares using Microsoft products. good example, Dynamics. If you're already on Dynamics 365, you already have the license and access to Power App, for example. And you can see from this slide, I have included this diagram here, that Microsoft platform sits very comfortably on top of Microsoft Azure, due to security and control, especially the how Azure is already on cloud. A lot of businesses are also bringing um, their data on a cloud native approach. So there are also other uh, services like Microsoft 365, Dynamics 365, and even if you're pro code, it can actually integrate very well with GitHub. So these are all Microsoft services. So it is already very well integrated. And later, I will. There's one slide on Microsoft Teams which talks about how Microsoft is really trying to pull Microsoft platform into every single services that they now have to provide a more holistic as well as the seamless business environment for their clients. Next is obviously the connectors. So if your client does not use have all these other data services that they already use, no problem at all. Microsoft platform can pull in all those data and consume it, using data connectors, as we talked about in the previous slide. Now, next is Microsoft platform is marketed widely as a low code, no code platform. There is a resource here by Forrester, which I pull out one particular stats, is that if the if the client organization want to go on a citizen developer mode by allowing their staff to free play on developing apps within the organization, within teams, within department, they can do so. And in fact, there is stats and reports saying that you can reduce development costs by 48%. Now then you will say that if this is so, then what is in the business for us? There are some app that require application lifecycle management, and simply citizen developers cannot bring that further. So then ProCode comes in. So ProCode allows developer to actually create that custom components, uh, because based on the business solution that the organization requires, that is probably more complex, and they require a more complex business logic. They need to incorporate a lot more business rules. Then that is where ProCodes needs to come in. Then again, Power Platform also allows developers to create custom components at a faster rate than if they were to start from scratch or even from a framework. Uh, that is why Power Platform is not just low code, no code, but also pro code. So there is a piece of pie for everybody in this Power Platform environment. So Forrester report here has quite an in-depth study on how it makes economic sense for clients to start using Power Platform. Okay, so I'm going into the different components, services of Power Platform, but this is just a summary. So you already know what Power App is. So it's basically the drag and drop UI um, version of app. So with that, you can actually, it is actually very responsive. So once you build the app once, you can enable it on Windows and web, and also in the iOS and Android environment. But of course, you have to download the Power App. It's not available from, say, Play Store or uh, App Store. It's not. You have to download the Power App, but you can start using the app once it is being shared with you within the organization. It also actually allows, again, uh, pro developers to recreate usable components to share with the citizen developer. So the Power App becomes a platform, a gateway for developers and users, or even citizen developers to have the interaction. So again, of course, it depends. A lot of the app you requires data, so you can connect to data using pre-built or custom connectors. And this is a summary of the 3 different types of Power App that is available in Microsoft platform right now. I will go through with you the summary, and obviously the Canvas model driven and the Portal app, they are not there is no one more superior or more or inferior. In fact, they are good for different purposes, which I'm going to go through with you. So it doesn't mean that a model-driven app is better than Canvas or better than Portal. They each have their own purpose actually. So for clients who really want to have full control over the UI, they will likely to go for a Canvas app because you can drag and drop, the different components that you want to add on to your interface. Uh, for clients who already have existing data from all over the place, for example, SharePoint, Office 365, or maybe even from an Excel sheet, they can combine it together using one interface in Canvas. And because of the user friendliness over the custom UI component, it means that it allows more flexibility for the client to develop the different functions and control. The one of the limitation that Canvas has is that the app maker has to choose between a mobile or tablet view. So once you choose that from the beginning, actually you can't change it. So if you choose like a mobile view, like this small little screen, you can't say that you want it to be a tablet screen later. So this is one of the limitation. But one good thing about Canvas is that most of the users who use a Canvas app will also use it on their mobile app. So if they need it to scan, to have a control that uses a camera to scan a QR code, then the Canvas app is a very good choice. Next, a model-driven app. For a model-driven app, as the name implies, it is actually very much driven by data. So that means you actually use existing data source that is already in Dataverse, or you can actually create a new data source as well from scratch, but it has to reside in Dataverse. You can't bring data in from the other places. So, but you can actually import your data into Dataverse. It's just that model-driven app has to consume data that is stored in Dataverse. So this is one um, big, actually, I would say enabler, not a limiter at all, because the versatility of Dataverse is really quite limitless, the capacity of Dataverse. Now, if the client needs a solution that is very complex and needs to be scalable, and they want something that is end to end, for example, you start a business flow and you need to bring it to the end, then a model-driven app is definitely a good solution to go compared to a Canvas app. But one of the major limitation will be because it is mainly bound by data. That means the layout, design, and the functionality of a model-driven app is pretty fixed. It is actually limited by how you want the data to interact. You can't have a interface, say like in Canvas, you can drag and drop. The sidebar, the top command bar, the 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 center and the property bar, they are all pretty fixed. So that is one of the things we need to know about model-driven app. However, model-driven app is responsive both on mobile and desktop view. So that is one good thing. You don't have to choose between the two. All right, a model-driven app is also B2B. So and also the Canvas app is also B2B. So they are only available for organizational users. So they are not these two apps are not available to an external user. Now that is where we come to the Portal app, which is built on the basis of a B2C. So again, it also is built on top of Dataverse. In fact, the Portal app allows the external user to interact with the Dataverse that is already available in Dataverse between that and a model-driven app. So you can actually limit, what are the information that external user can access to and interact with in the Power App. Okay, and then the Power App is also the Portal app is also one that uh, is represented by web pages. Is something that is already very familiar to anybody who visits website, and you can actually set anonymous or authenticated login. So it is all up to the administrator of the Portal app to set the security control. And just like model-driven app, it is also responsive on mobile and desktop view. Next, we go to the RPA side of Power Platform, which is called Power Automate. In fact, Power Automate is now present in most of the Microsoft services as the automation uh, service of Microsoft. So we are all familiar with RPA. It's mainly to improve business automation and to automate the process so as to reduce the manual input and the manual tasks. And also for Power Automate, there are various type of flow. For example, you can do a scheduled flow so that at certain time of the day or week or month, it will trigger that task based on the schedule. Or it can also be triggered based on uh, a manual process. For example, the user want to be in control when this automation or this flow will start to trigger, then he or she will actually initiate it. So it's basically quite flexible based on the task itself, what the user is trying to achieve. There is also a Power Automate desktop other than the Power Automate on cloud. So in fact, the good news is Microsoft has actually pre-installed a Power Automate desktop in their current Windows 11 already. So that shows how Microsoft is trying to, bring forth Power Automate as, the one of the main services that, they want users to be exposed to. So the Power Automate actually mostly come hand in hand with Power App in a lot of ways to reduce that manual task input by the users itself. Power BI. So as we all know, data is a great it's kind of like the buzzword nowadays. You talk about a business, they want to have access to data, they want to consume data, and they also want to use data to come up with meaningful analytics. So that is where Power BI comes in. So now Power Platform has already their inbuilt reporting tool, but the based on the requirement of the organization, they can further enhance it by purchasing a Power BI license so that they can integrate Power BI in within the Power App itself or their Power Platform services. So it actually enable the organizations and the users or teams um, based on their configuration and their security control to have access to certain data. And they can create two kinds of interface. One is a dashboard, the other one is a report. So a dashboard is something that looks like this. So you can create a one-page summary, or sometimes it can overflow to 2 pages or more, with the different kind of cards, um, that that the user want to build the analytics on based on the data set that they already have. So this will actually provide that, the visualization that makes the data clearer or more meaningful to the users themselves. And within the dashboard, you can actually interact with the data. You can click, for example, you can click on any part of this so-called pie chart and see, and go deeper. So how much you want the users to interact with the data also can be included in the design itself of the dashboard itself. Or a report can be something that when you go, it actually a report allows you to have more in-depth information. So a dashboard is good for a summary or maybe just on a certain level of interaction, but the report actually gives you a lot more details into the data itself. So these are some of the ways how Power BI is being utilized. And then again, you can also share, once it's on the dashboard, you can also share your dashboard and also your reports with other users within the organization. So it gives you real-time data analytics and it also gives some kind of a democracy to the users within the organization to consume this data. So they no longer rely on somebody from another department to feed them with the data. They can, early in the morning, they can just go in. For example, you're from the sales team, you can go in and look at your data and come up with the decisions in a more timely manner. So this is what we are seeing most organizations, they are moving into, data democracy. Lastly, Power Virtual Agent. Power Virtual Agent does not come built in. It actually requires additional license to use. However, again, it depends on the business solutions that are required by the organization. Not everybody needs a Power Virtual Agent, but most businesses who wants to have that kind of intelligent uh, customer service front, for example, if they are e-commerce shop or they are they are they offer some kind of a services, whether, for example, if they are a bank, then Power Virtual Agent really comes in very handy. You think of being able to build a powerful chatbot without needing for code or extensive time to build, then the Power Virtual Agent is a very attractive option for most businesses. And you can actually design, it very much boils down to the design of, the interaction. So the users can actually design it in such a way how they want the bot to respond when a keyword is being fed to them. So, and you can also monitor and see how the chatbot is is performing along the way, and you can actually tweak the chatbot itself. Okay, so as we can see previously, each of the respective components of the Power Platform, they are quite powerful by themselves. That means if you just want to build a Power App, you can. If you don't need to have a Power App, but you just want to use Power Automate to automate, your business processes internally, you can as well. Or if you just need a Power Virtual Agent, to put on your Facebook, you can as well. And if you just need a Power BI in order to have the visualization and as well as the real-time analytics, you can do it by itself. However, Microsoft also markets it in a way that they are even better together. So this slide actually talks about a loop where how the different components of the Power Platform supports each other. So in fact, most of the big organizations are utilizing all at least three of them, if not all of the components to build an entire business solution by itself. So this is something that it can be considered for organizations which need to bring their solutions from end to end and extending to their client from outside the organization. So as I've already spoken about how Power Platform how Microsoft is bringing Power Platform to many parts of their businesses, one of the exciting development is how Power Platform is going to be integrated with Microsoft Teams. So I've also included a resource here where there are more details about how Power Platform can integrate with Teams. So we all know that in fact, Teams is just going to be more and more powerful. We already know from Microsoft Ignite this year, that they are bringing in Metaverse into Microsoft Teams. So next year, we can see the better version of, how you can create your digital avatar and see your digital avatar interact with the other digital avatars within a certain environment. For example, if you go into a classroom, for example, you go into a meeting room, you can literally see yourself moving within that space itself as a digital avatar. So with that, Microsoft Power Platform is going to be integrated in a more dynamic way. For example, if you have a Power BI dashboard and reports, you can embed your dashboard into Power into Microsoft Teams so that your team chat or your group chat can can interact with the data on Microsoft Teams itself. So you don't really need to go somewhere else. You just stay in Microsoft Teams. You can view and you can interact with the data. And if you have a Power App, you can also bring in the app and embed it in the Teams itself. So you literally can just go click and go in and um, and use the app itself. So there are almost there are many ways of how they are trying to bring Power Platform into Microsoft Team. In fact, right now you probably can use Power Automate, to automate some of the tasks that is drawing data from Microsoft Team. For example, you can automate the way how, for example, if you receive to alert a message or to trigger off an email from within Microsoft Team, you can use Power Automate to do that. So same thing, Power Virtual Agent, you can literally put your chatbot in Microsoft Teams. So these are some of the exciting ways in how Microsoft is trying to integrate Power Platform into every corner of Microsoft services. I think that's my last slide. So please feel free to, to fire off your questions.